We'll now call this meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. Monday, May 5th. I'd like to welcome everybody and ask you, if you would, silence your mobile devices. This time I'll ask Mr. Dale Blevins if he will lead us in invocation.
Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you again, Lord, for another day. Lord, we just thank you that we can gather here, Lord, to be about Mitchell County's work, Lord, and let the things that we do and decide tonight, Lord, let it be pleasing in your sight, Lord, as we come to you for wisdom and knowledge. Lord, let it guide us, for we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, David. Mr. Stevens, will you lead us in our pledge?
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board, you make yourself aware of the ethics awareness and conflict of interest reminder. If you have a conflict of interest, please let it be known by saying aye. If none, we'll move on to 6. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda tonight?
Chairman, I have a couple additions I would like to add. I would like to add under items for discussion 11H. And that's going to be the resolution of the Mitchell County Board of Education and the Mitchell County Board of Commissioners regarding the Bowman facility and the transfer of FEMA public assistance grant responsibilities. And the second addition that I would like to do is a closed session. If we can add that to item 16, and that would be A6, I believe.
Thank you, Brother. With those additions, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Any opposed? Agenda passes. You would look at the approval of the minutes, April 7, 2025 regular session minutes. We'll have a motion to accept those regular session minutes.
I make a motion to pass those, Jeff, with a slight revision under the regular session minutes. If it'll just notate that I was absent from that meeting.
Okay. With that being adjusted, do I have a motion?
Yes, I moved.
Second. Second. Thank you, Steve. All in favor? And on the April 7th, 2025 closed session minutes. Does everyone have a chance to look at those?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Dale. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Hardy. All in favor? Passes. We'll move on to number 9. Do you have any public comments tonight? If there are no public comments, then we will move on to reports and presentations. First one up is tax collector's report. Good evening.
I have for you tonight, and as you'll see on your report, for the month of April, we collected $166,548.83. Our percentage rate as of the end of April was 96.67, and you'll see that in your package. Today, it's 96.90. So we're moving right along with those. If I have one tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Marcia Bennett with Veteran Services.
Good evening. I'm Marcia Bennett, Veteran Service Officer for the county. My job is to assist veterans in obtaining their benefits or using their benefits such as education, the VA loans that they can get. Just basically anything that they need, they can come to the office and will call me and we'll work out something for them. I work under the county, but also under the North Carolina Department of Military and Veteran Affairs. I'm responsible for reporting to them when there are issues with the office or with the veteran. I have to be certified through them, take training every month basically, and have 2 conferences to attend that also are also training for me. There are approximately 1,000 veterans in the county. About 350 of those have come through the office at some point in time since the office opened, that we have records for still in the office. I'm in the office 3 days a week, Monday through Wednesday, from 7 until 4:30, but the office opens at 8. The first hour I use to check claims, to check emails, answer people back, check the messages, and then call people back at an appropriate time, so that I'm not calling them at 7 a.m. Last month or last year, we had 167 claims that were filed for veterans. This year, we've already done 84. Well, because I'm the only one in the office, so. Last year, we had 270 total visits, which is up every year since I've started counting for it from 2021. So, that year, I think, was 111, and now we're up to 270. There have been 85 that have come through the office already this year. And that's just the office visits, it's not including any phone calls, working with people through email or anything else. During Hurricane Helene, we had a stand down in Yancey County in coordination with Yancey and the Greensboro Vet Center. And that is a resource fair for veterans specifically. They brought, the Greensboro Vet Center brought supplies to us, and they were distributed to veterans. Veterans could come in and check on claims instantly, because with internet and phones and things down, that wasn't always a possibility when they come to the office. So we had the Winston-Salem Veterans Services there as well, and they are the regional district or regional managers for this whole area, and they could even assist veterans in getting claims finalized right there at that time. Since the storm, we have had 19 veterans who have passed away. And that is a huge number, because when I went to the conference in March, nobody else had that many, even local counties around us hadn't had that many. 3 of those were World War II. We're currently applying for an NCDMVA grant of $20,000 to be used by August 1st, and they have not approved those yet. So we're all the counties are kind of sweating, trying to get that money spent in that time, but we want to use it to get veterans gas cards so they can go to their appointments, to get bus passes, so that if they don't have transportation, they don't have to pay for transportation to get to those. And then we want to be able to give something back to the veterans. So we're gonna have promotional things. I've got stress balls in my office right now, and every time someone comes through the office, they pick one up and take it with them. So, but it's perfect because it has our phone number and the office on it, so that they always would have that with them. And then also we want to use it to take care of any needs they might have that we can address through that office. And that's about it for me. Any questions?
What's the typical claims? Is there something that sticks out more than others?
Typically when veterans come in, they initially start with hearing loss, tinnitus, something simple, because at that time we don't have access to their service treatment records. And that gets the door opened for me to be able to get in and look at other things that might possibly be. So those are pretty high on the list. Headaches. Basically, really anything though, that we can tie back to their service, we will claim. And the goal obviously is they want to be 100%, because at 100%, that, you know, is where they really get the benefit from it. Thank you.
When they come in, do you also, or you, I don't know if you know this or not, but, when it comes to their property taxes, there is an elderly deduction form. Are you aware of that?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yeah, they have to be 100% to get that.
Okay.
The ones that are 100%, that's the first thing we talk about, getting their disabled veteran tag, getting their property tax taken care of, and getting their hunting and fishing license. Because those are really cheap for them once they hit that point, yes. And as you see on your chart, there's quite a bit. That's only a small reference range. It's only 300 of the veterans on the chart. So if there's 1,000 here and they're all done through VA, more than likely they all have some level of claim, either from 10% to 0%, starts at 0, but they get paid starting at 100% or at 10%, and it goes through 100. A veteran who is 10% gets $175 a month. A veteran who is 100% can get almost $4,000 a month. And it is not state or federally taxed because it's not considered income. Anything?
That's what I was looking at, that was shocking, is
How much money
Per
comes
month.
into the county? Mhm. Yeah,
I
it's
think
a lot.
I think it's great.
Yeah. And that's not even all of it, that's just a percentage. So. That's the goal though, to get them where they need to be, where they deserve to be, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your efforts. We'll move on to item C, Mitchell County Long-Term Resiliency. It's Lee. It's Stephanie Pittman.
Hey, Stephanie Pittman. I am the chair of our Mitchell County Long-Term Resiliency Group. I have with me Starley McDowell and Marvin Rogers. They're also board members. And basically, the Mitchell County Long-Term Resiliency Group was born from Helene. Early on, we had emergency teams here from Louisiana and Texas, aiding the county. And we were strongly encouraged to put together a long-term recovery group. Places in the country that deal with these types of natural disasters already have these groups in place. We obviously didn't, because we've never experienced anything to this magnitude. So we worked in pulling in resources, local volunteers, local volunteer organizations that would be committed to Mitchell County long-term moving forward. We set up as a nonprofit. We have our articles of incorporation, established our bylaws, our mission statement. And basically, we're a group of locals who are committed to seeing Mitchell County residents rebuild and recover from Helene. The other part of that is moving forward. We didn't want to just be here for Hurricane Helene recovery. In 10, 15 years, that we have another natural disaster or emergency, we'll still be here as a resource for residents to help them recover and rebuild from any natural disaster.
Like a fire, we have a fire.
Exactly. Yeah, we're a resource for residents. We're not gonna be the first place you come. Residents need to have filed with our homeowners insurance. We don't require that residents file with FEMA. However, if they did, then we have the capacity to be able to through our application process that we have, see what they were awarded in damages and funds for recovery. We don't duplicate services, so if they've received funding for roof repair, say, and they chose to go on vacation or spend it on something else, that's not something that we will duplicate in services. Sorry, I'll turn over to Starley is our case management chairperson.
Yes, my name is Starley McDowell. I'm also the treasurer of the board of the long-term resiliency. And so I'm the case manager chair, acting as the case management person until we can get someone on board. So we did just get a grant to hire a case manager. So we're gonna put that in the paper soon and get someone hopefully local that is familiar. It's really important that this person be, you know, someone that's known by our residents and someone that can be trusted. Because, you know, they've been through a lot. Everybody's traumatized, so we need this case manager to be someone who can really put our residents at ease, because they're gonna be coming in to monitor the projects, and we're working with a lot of the agencies, the volunteer agencies that are in our area, helping to rebuild and recover and repair homes. And then the bridges and culverts and gravel and driveways and all of that falls under our group. And so our case manager will be managing all of this to make sure that we do not duplicate services. And that's one of the most important things that FEMA and you know, the people helping us, Red Cross, they just want to make sure that that services are not duplicated, because the residents, you know, should that happen, and that's gonna be what we're really, really looking for through case management. Should that happen, they may have to pay back, you know, FEMA fees, so we wanna make sure, we wanna get the word out to them that we're here to help them through this process. It's a complicated situation, and so we want to make sure that we help residents through this. And this Saturday, we will be at Bowman, the Mark Center, and we'll be there from 10 to 2 with a resource fair. So anybody can come, no matter what, you know, if you've had some repairs done and you still have some needs. I mean, there's so many different needs in each project. You know, you may get your house repaired, you may get some gravel down, but you still have, you know, some unmet needs. And so we're inviting everybody from the county that still has any kind of need at all to come to Bowman Saturday, 10 to 2, and we'll have these local, volunteer agencies that are here working in our community. We'll have them there, and so the residents can go around and talk with each of these agencies, find out, you know, what they offer, get on their list for repairs. But like Stephanie said, this is a years and years you know, project going forward. We're gonna be working on this for many years, and we've got a very committed group of volunteers and board, so I'm honored to serve.
I'm Marvin Wonders. I'm in, I guess I've been doing a lot of the grant writing for the organization. We do have our first grant. And we have a very large grant in for the Red Cross and another grant with W&C Bridge that's in, that we're both waiting to hear from on those. But in spite of the fact that we have had some individual donations as well. And we have enough, you know, fortunately, the volunteer organizations that are working with us, that are doing the actual repairs and the work, a lot of those have their own money to do it. And so our case management system is just sending them projects when they can do it. But the Red Cross grant will provide us with enough funds to actually provide direct relief if a contractor can get the work done, but doesn't have his own funds that he's raised. It's not a professional disaster relief person, so we'll be working on fundraising for quite a while. But we have another disaster like a fire or something like that, you know, we'll be right back. People will have just as many needs as they do now. That's great.
So does this also apply to, like, just say, when we talk about fire, if it's just an individual who loses their home to a fire versus like a forest fire with multiple people?
Yes,
Is that okay?
yes, it would,
And businesses.
and businesses.
So I do have another question. I forgot. Do you guys have any questions? It might come
Well, I
back to me.
understood what you were saying on Saturday from 10 to 2. Any individual within the county can come out there with their need, and there's gonna be groups there that will listen to any questions that they have, and hopefully be able to get them on a list. They give them some.
Well,
Yes.
we should also mention that we're working on a website, and we're gonna have a website that will be available to everybody. It'll have all this information on it as well.
Yeah, and the organizations that we've pulled in, to be part of this long-term recovery group have been vetted and checked out.
That's.
We've been very cautious from the get-go with that, because we wanted to make sure our residents were protected. We did not want to be a link in any of our residents being taken advantage of.
That's what it was about. So is there a list for, when you guys get the website, where you will have the name of the trusted contractors? Because I know it's a moving target every
Yeah.
single day, it seems like.
Right, and that's something that we can list, but that's one of the reasons that we also wanted to do this May Day event, was to show the groups that are involved with our group. So residents knew that these were trusted organizations that they could rely on for assistance.
Yeah, and also on Saturday, there'll be lots of activities for kids.
Yeah.
So we're just inviting families to come and enjoy themselves with food, bouncy houses, lots of activities for kids. So we're showing off Bowman.
I was gonna chime in on this. I've been to several of the long-term resiliency group meetings. And this is something Mitchell County needs. And, you know, they're not really asking anything from you today, except for maybe a resolution of support a little bit later. But, you know, whenever you're on the coast, these groups have been pre-built for hurricane season because they know that, okay, emergency management's coming in, search and rescue's coming in, and then you have folks that are displaced and needing services, and these long-term resiliency groups pop in there. And they're able to kind of move in with our right really close into the storm because they're organized and poised and ready to start helping us with, remember the donations that we were getting? Having a long-term resiliency group in place, they're going to help us kind of push those donations out correctly. When the volunteer groups come in, and we were in the midst of it because we were new to this, they would help plug us into that. We could set up call centers. So when one of these is done right, this is a long-term asset to the county. So like I said, they're not here to ask anything, but it is a new nonprofit. It's up and coming. It's been developed. The articles have been filed. The tax exempt status is, I think it's in place now. It is being done right. This gentleman here, Marvin, has done a great job as far as putting the brains behind all the legal work. And the board consists of locals throughout the area. And it's really a non-political board. I'm sitting here in a commission meeting, but it's a very non-political board. It's not like some of these that have commission board appointees. It is a helping board in the community. And I really can't say enough about it, just to let folks know that when you see this thing built, it is a huge win for Mitchell County. Avery's doing one, Yancey's doing one. So just know this is what's come out of the storm with some of these resiliency groups that are going to be there to help our citizens. Heaven forbid we get another flood or wildfire. These groups will swoop in. That case management component will help that person with a local contact. So I'm just, like I said, I just want to go ahead and anchor in a little bit of my 2 cents, but very glad to see this one rolling out and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I said my 2 cent chair. That's about 20 cents.
That's a lot, says a lot for those folks to make the commitment to serve and do what they're doing. Okay, we'll move on to E, or excuse me, trying to speed up, D, board reports. Ms. Masters. Get the paper, not a note.
Listen, I haven't
I'm
been
kidding
here,
you.
this meeting wasn't here, so. All right, so, the Mitchell County Public Library met on April 15th over here in Bakersfield. Everything seems to be doing good. They are working on getting the chess club back up and running, story times on Tuesday. They did participate in Child Fest, some take-home crafts and board games, that kind of stuff. And they are looking for a part-time bookkeeper, for the region. And then our next regional board meeting will be June the 5th, and that'll be in Yancey County, and that'll be the last meeting before it turns to the Toe River Board Lottery. Let's see here. The NCACC, I done a Zoom meeting with Mo Green. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. Just kind of about what they're looking for with the school system and the state, and just reiterating what Mitchell County's needs are. And Chad sat down and had talked, and Alan English and Brandon had talked a little bit about, just make sure we hit on those pivotal talking points. And then we did do our district meeting for the NCACC, and there was several bills that are being discussed in legislation that I wanted to bring up, just to make sure that the ones that weren't in attendance had the opportunity to know about them. And the biggest one that I can think of right now is in reference to EMS, and I'm sure most of you have heard about it, but it's House Bill 219 and House Bill 675. And so I have not checked this week on the status of those, but that is something that would affect Mitchell County directly. So just kind of keep those on your radar. Another bill that is being discussed right now is about Viber fee usage, and so we use the Viber system, so that also would affect Mitchell County. There is also House Bill 765. It is about property tax cuts, land use, and zoning. Also, that one doesn't really affect Mitchell County as much, but it would affect our municipalities, so just keep that on your radar. And then, let's see here, Senate Bill 220, Section 4, I spoke about it several months ago. Our outdoor recreation entities and businesses in the county had a little bit of concern about it, but Section 4 was removed. So anybody watching the live stream that has outdoor recreation business, you will be happy to know that. And let's see, the last update for the NCACC is the County Advocacy Days. I just want to make sure that you guys know about that if you want to go. It's for June the 10th and the 11th. That is where all 100 counties are invited to go to Raleigh and kind of discuss as a whole, especially like with our region, on what issues we think are important. And then we make our way down to the legislative buildings and have further discussion there. So if you want to attend that, you will need to notify Deidre because she'll have to get you guys registered. And so for my TDA update, before you, Ms. Kelly had created these, and these are going out to all the visitor centers. And it's our new spring, summer promotion of Find Your Mountain of Youth. I think she done a really good job with getting content throughout the entire county. So look at those. If you know anybody that has a visitor center that needs one, or a business that wants to display them, just reach out to her and she'll be more than glad to get that to them. And then my other update is about I wish Lee was here because I kind of have some questions for him, but so from the time that we had our last meeting where we finalized our budget, kind of got everything ready to go, Patty Jensen had reached out to Kelly and said, let's see, where's my? I'll pull up the email that you got on my phone. So yeah, Patty had reached out to Kelly after our last TDA meeting and notified her that she was not planning on renewing the visitor center lease at the Parkway. And so that's kind of all I know about it right now. I think the lease, in the contract, from what I remember, they had to give the visitor center a 30-day notice. So I'm assuming once the chamber board had made that decision, that's when Patty had notified Kelly. And so I guess it'll be a topic for discussion at the next TDA meeting. Extension, I attended a joint meeting with Extension and the North Carolina Forest Service. It was in Yancey County and they provided lunch, but we discussed escape routes, fire lines, a lot of discussion about firefighters, vacancies in our region. There are several counties, including Mitchell, that have vacancies, and we really need to get the state to fill those positions. Heaven forbid we get a fire. And then a lot of invasive species that are coming in from the donations. So like we're seeing a lot of fire ants or a lot of vegetation that doesn't normally grow here, but it came in from hay and all kinds of stuff like that during Helene. And then my other extension update, they've got, let's see here. They've got some upcoming events. So May the 14th, if you know anybody that is dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia, they have a class for family members to be able to attend. That's going to be May the 14th. And then also on May the 14th, they're doing a forestry recovery workshop. And if you have questions about any of those, just reach out to Brenda Pittman out there at Extension. And then also, if there's anybody on the live stream that is interested in their children participating in the Young Livestock Club, I encourage you to bring them on May the 27th. We had several kids there at the last one, and every single one of them learned how to give injections to livestock, and they've done exceptionally well. And nobody got hooked, and all the goats got vaccinated, and I was very, very proud when John came home and said that they done it. So that's my extension board. And then I have a couple questions, but I'll wait till you guys give your report. And then if he didn't answer them, then I'll kind of circle back. So that's all I got.
Mr. Blitz.
Okay. Start with animal shelter, April board meeting, April 8th, their adoptions have really picked up quite a bit since the 1st of March. And they're happy about that, it gives them a little more room in the shelter. There was a possible rabies outbreak involving raccoons earlier in the end of, March. But they have gotten that under control with the Mitchell County Animal Rescue and the Toe River Health Department have really worked well together on that situation to get that under control. They are applying for another $50,000 Dogwood Trust grant. And if that grant is given to them, that will offer the citizens of Mitchell County, they'll be able to host for the citizens of Mitchell County free rabies clinics, free spay and neutering clinics, and they're trying to get a part-time liaison to help with, to educate some of the Hispanic communities in the county on, spay and neutering, getting your vaccines to keep your animals healthy, so these, things don't spread. So then, 4 or 5 days later, April 12th, I worked and attended the spaghetti fundraiser on Saturday the 12th, and the shelter raised in monies and donations, $12,537 in funds. Just about ran out of food. We had so many people there, so we were raking the bottom of the pans by the time it got 7 o'clock that night. Then on April 15th, on Tuesday the 15th, I went to Malin Community College along with several other staff members from here. Glenda and I attended to the Freedom Life, and this was a Mitchell Avery Yancey simulation drill type thing that we did. And what they did with us, you were given, by the time they oriented us, they gave us a card. And you had 4 weeks of items you had to do in that 4 weeks, and you had 15 minutes for each week to go around to the different places. And you would think you were on top of it, and I present this to them, they said, nope, you gotta go back, or I went to another place. Somebody jumped in front of me, said, no, we had an appointment, you can't come here, you have to wait. Then you ran out of time. I got put in jail once because I wasn't back at my, appointed time for my probation time. I was supposed to be at home. Well, Glenda got put in jail twice. Back there, so she's black too. But make a long story short and move on quickly. Now I realized, and I did tell Glenda, I said, now I realize how everything just locks in with this Freedom Life. How these folks that are just getting back out in society are having all this to do and nobody to guide them. And through Freedom Life, it will, this is gonna help them, help our people trying to re-get back in society in Mitchell County. I mean, it's just really gonna be very helpful. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. I've got to, I will come back to Freedom Life again. Thursday, April 17th, attended the 911 Communications Board. They're really planning on tower upgrades for their backup systems right now, which is in the budget for this year coming up. They will have a tower updated in the updates on the towers in the south end of the county and in the north. These are called backup repeaters. And these towers will be separate from the Viper system, which is used in Mitchell County right now. And of course, this is going to be their funding. They're looking into the funding as well, through capital outlays, through the county and grant fundings, which may not start coming in until after the budget is passed and approved for us. They're continuing staff development for their employees, and there are many new House bills that aren't as promising as Harley's House bill was. We have, and I'll just tell you real quick what they are. House Bill 695 which would benefit the communication system, if that were to pass through with surcharges for the Viper system, which will help not only Mitchell County, but Western North Carolina counties to build their systems and make them even better than they already are now. House Bill 675, this one's a little bit negative, which would require all EMS in the state to become nationally registered certified. EMS personnel would have to endure more training and repeat training they've already had. And it's gonna cost them. And, you know, like everything else, the money is involved here. It will cost, it'll come back on the taxpayers of the county in order to keep the workers up to date with the National Registry. And then there's House Bill 219. And I talked with Alan about this one. After I finished up there, you know, this bill in the state of North Carolina would take away Mitchell County's ability to have a franchise agreement with the ambulance services, you know, which means to the public, anybody can come in and establish an ambulance service. Correct me if I'm wrong now.
That's I'm reading the Bible with you.
In the county, therefore taking away EMS contracts and control that the county has. And, you know, that's another thing that you need to reach out to our senators and tell them that this is not going to be good for us. And then there's another one, still one more here, and this is Senate Bill 257. This would involve the Viper system. All radios have to have an ID to access the system. Mitchell County has 688 assigned radios. If the bill passes, it will be $25 to register each radio. Mitchell County can exempt 100 of those radios, which is in the guidelines. However, if this bill is passed, Mitchell County will have to fund $14,700 annually extra to what we already fund now. So in order to meet their requirements. So if anybody has any comments they want to make to Ralph Heiss or anybody like that, now's the time to do it, because these bills are in the House right now and in the Senate at this time. Which would, and these were the things we discussed in the 911 meeting. Then on April 23rd, I did attend an EOC meeting, and I have to say that all of these folks that are in these EOC meetings, I hadn't been to one in like a month or so, whatever, but I decided to attend this one to come every so often. And brother, I'll tell you, if we have another disaster, these folks are going to be ready, are they not, Al?
They're sharp. Yeah.
And let me tell you what, Andrew Brewer and Stephanie sitting out here, Stephanie Wiseman, John Masters, Kelly Pittman, Wade Singer, all these folks, I don't want to leave anybody's name, and of course, this man sitting right here, he is the key to this whole EOC system, if you want my opinion. You know, he works so well with this group of people, and the group of people are dedicated to our county. And I'm just sitting there, you know, telling them how impressed I was and how I was going to, you know, I was going to let the commissioners know. I said it in my statement when it got my turn to speak. I said, I will be letting the commissioners know the hard work that you folks are putting forth. And guys, they are a key to our county. We're much better off now if we have another disaster in this county than we were this time last year. Because we have a group of people that will head this disaster up immediately, and they will go to work long before. And yes, they do. If the weather's calling for it, it's better safe than sorry. They're going to get out there and start planning. If the storm goes around us or something like that goes around us, then it doesn't hurt a thing. They were planned and ready. Then, of course, the same day on April 23rd, Alan had gotten a phone call at the EOC meeting, and he invited me to come down and sit in on the meeting with Drew Christie, who is one of Governor Stein's assistants with public assistance. It was a public assistance meeting. And the thing about it is, you know, we talked about timber and debris, road rerouted accesses, citizens bridges, our Cox's Creek situations and our 226 road in Mitchell County, the Bowman project, generators and administrative buildings. If the power goes out, we can still operate, to the public. Future disaster shelter at Bowman instead of, they offered it at Mitchell High School when Helene came. Well, they could have probably gotten back to school a little earlier, but they could not have kept these people out of Mitchell High School because they had to have a place to stay. So, Bowman will serve as our next disaster shelter. The thing about this is, we talked, but Mitchell County has not been completely forgotten by our state leaders. But it is our job to keep on pushing them. It's our job as local people here to keep on, letting these people know we still have trouble here. We still have people in need and we still have people that have issues. And, it's up to not just us, it's up to the public as well. It's up to you folks out here too. To keep the state going, saying, we need help, we still need help, there are people here, and I could talk about this all night, but I'm not, that really need help. And then back to Freedom Life, April 24th, our first planning meeting. We had our first planning meeting, and I'll give you a timeline, and then I'm through. April and May, we have 3 planning meetings with the planning committee, which is in progress right now, which I talked about just a few minutes ago. The committee will meet 3 times. By the end of June, we hope to have the executive board formed, which will begin their meetings, and the executive board will oversee Freedom Life. And then in October, full reentry council will begin, and then hopefully by January 2026, the full operations for Freedom Life will begin in Mitchell County. They will begin operating with a working office located here in Mitchell County. And that's all I've got. I've been all over, and like, I still have a working job. I've been a lot of places this month.
Bill, you made me think of another thing. When you talk about emergency management, there's also another bill floating around out there, and I can't remember if it's a House or a Senate bill, but it would take emergency management and place it under National Guard.
Yeah.
So I know there was one more that I was missing.
Yes, we did talk about our EMS, if that bill passes, it would go into the housing of National Guard. That's something to come if it passes. That we did discuss that just a few minutes, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We talked about that. We had some concerns about local versus federal control.
Yeah.
Mr. Pitt. Starting on the phone, there, you got a lot of updates,
Places.
yeah. And I'll start with the JCPC. We met in April. We got a little situation here in the county, where we met back, I guess, in February, with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, West North Carolina, to make sure they were on top of their stuff. Want to make sure they had the presence in the county. We've seen good out of them in the past, and we want to continue that. So we met February. We felt like did what we needed to do. Unfortunately, they missed their deadline to file for Mitchell County, so we won't be renewing that this go around. It's out of our budget request, so it's unfortunate that they didn't get that filed in time. We were pretty clear as to what those timelines were. I feel like, don't you miss Gilchrist? So it's unfortunate that they didn't get that taken care of, but hey, we're moving forward. The one thing that did come up that I thought was good, and I'm just gonna, if I can read it here. We had from our community partner newsletter, and I'll just paraphrase some of this here. Basically, at Pisgah Legal Services, we continue to work. This is the community partner newsletter. But one of the things that they wanted to make sure we get out there, Pisgah Legal Services, as you guys know, continue to work to meet the changing needs related to the lien recovery. We're providing legal help, information, and resources to disaster survivors.
it's weird when you say disaster survivors, you know, that's a pretty strong, but that's everybody in this room that lives in this county. We all, you know, experience that. So, you know, this is a service that's out there. We're also following federal state policy changes that are impacting our neighbors on many fronts, and we're working together with partners across the region to support Western and North Carolinians through uncertain times, protect the legal rights of all, and be part of rebuilding our communities. We're so grateful to do this work alongside each of you. They provide a wide range of services throughout Western North Carolina. Check their website for more information and to arrange a presentation about their services. If your staff or clients, please contact them. So that's a service that's out there that just want to make sure people know that is in the community. Let's see. Oh, and then one other piece here. So if you live in Mitchell, Yancey, Avery, or Madison County, they are working to hire a disaster screener and community engagement coordinator position. They're going to be beginning interviewing for this position later in the month of April. So I think they are still taking applications for it, is my understanding. So if that's something, you know, somebody that would be a good resource for. Next update is for the Mayland Community College. Like yourself, I spent most of my week my last 2 or 3 weeks in April have been on the search committee for a new president. So like I said, I think in the last meeting we had 33 applications. We went through a pretty longer process to get down to the final 3. I guess you guys saw that in the paper last week. This past week, we interviewed all 3 candidates. I can say we have got down to selecting a candidate, so it'll be shared, you know, at the appropriate time. But you know, it's been a pretty exhausting process, and I feel really good about the entire group and how you know, how that process went. So more to come shortly. Oh, sorry. So this Friday is the pinning ceremony for the nurses program, and next Saturday is the graduation. So if you're free, please come out. Main Street, I wasn't able to make their meeting. I don't know if any big news come out of that. Were you able to go to that one this past week?
Yeah, really wasn't.
I didn't get to make it because of other meetings. So in Vanya, we did not have a meeting. One thing that we do have coming up, we got a meeting this week with the Workforce Consortium for the High Country Council, Mitchell County. Let me go back over here. We are needing to make an appointment for Mitchell County. So currently, we did have Curtis Taylor, Curtis's term ends in June, and right now our other private sector seat is currently vacant. That was with the HR representative for the court, who used to hold that seat. So Curtis, just talking with him, he said if he would continue to do it if needed to, but he felt like his time he was having a hard time, feel like he was being able to meet. So he said if you got somebody else, I'm more than happy to let somebody else take that on. So as a board, we need to sometime between now and June come up with a couple of private sector appointments.
Is there an employee number that those private sectors have to employ, or is there any qualifications?
I can get that answer. I don't know. In the past, like I say, that's probably 2 of our larger, private employers in the county. That's why we wanted to make sure we included them, but I'm not sure if there's an age on there or a total quantity number. I can get that information, let you guys know. So if you're thinking of something, if you got anybody that you can think of, because I think and I don't have I got the contacts with the court, but I know all those guys up there. I don't know the Suboco folks is good. But I do think it would be great if we could get somebody out of the mining side of the world to be on that board. As big an impact as it has locally, so. That's just something, we don't have to have it today, it's something, but between now and end of June, we do need to figure out who we wanna do, for those two positions. That's all I got.
Okay. I have the least of all, I was not able to attend the Freedom of Life meeting because of work conflict. This time of year, it's hard to get out of and make a 10 o'clock meeting. You've heard about some of the bills that appear to be controversial. That's being talked about in Raleigh. We voice our concerns, but it's key that citizens of this county voice their concerns with the representatives. Got an update Friday from Kevin Leonard, he's with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. That again was House Bill 765. And basically, House Bill 765 limits local authority over zoning and land use. Okay. So your local officials have no control over that. And the NCACC believes that the decision should remain with local, not as a one size fits all and the state mandate what goes on in every county, because every county is a different size. So if you're listening to live stream, the bills that were mentioned tonight can hugely affect this county, how we do operations that service you, the citizens of the county, at the end of the day. So it's extremely important that you express your concern to the people that you put in office. Already talked about the District 14th meeting last week. Commissioner Masters headed that thing up. She did a great job. The food was excellent. The presentation we got was great. Got a lot of good views. District 14, 7 counties, correct, Carly?
Mitchell, Yancey, Avery, Ashe, Allegheny, Wilkes, and Watauga.
So out of those 7 counties, a local gentleman by the name of Mike Bess with the Bradshaw Fire Department received an award. That I think we as county government, Mitchell County, should invite him and recognize him at one of our meetings for the work that he did during the storm, the aftermath of the storm, how quickly he responded, not only as a local volunteer fireman, but also as a local contractor, grading contractor that provided his equipment to open roads up at no charge. I mean, he just wouldn't do his thing. So I think that was highly something that we should be very proud of. In this county, that out of 7 counties, one of our own receives this. I'll touch just a little bit, just an opinion, Harley, on the visitor center this year not going to be reopened. Say a lot of that's got to do with the parkway closure, because there's going to be very limited from the Boone area to the Asheville area with the parkway, and it doesn't sound like that thing's going to get fixed anytime soon, which is going to be a huge economic could be blow to our county and especially to the little switch area. Because we're going to lose all that traffic coming from there to Asheville. So the hope is we get them to travel up the mountain through Mitchell County, Yancey County, or come down and go through Avery, Mitchell, and Yancey before they go to get to Buckingham County to get back on the parkway. So that's huge. And did meet with the Mitchell County Development Foundation Board this week. There is another set of grants that will be released, I think, to the tune of $500,000. the grants will go from 10,000 to 25,000. And that executive committee interviewed the applications. I don't know how many applications that were turned in. But it's very good what they've been able to do to help local businesses with some of their costs that they got no help from FEMA or insurance. And just a side note here, I think that you can see that a commissioner has a very busy job. If you listen to all these reports, it takes a lot of time out of your day. Sometimes it takes a lot of time out of your night schedule. So we all try to attend the committees that we're on and bring back a report. So it's some weeks have been busy. I think Dale had the busiest week this week for this month.
Yeah.
So it's
Nice.
it's
Slow it down there.
it's never changing, folks. We just don't meet for 2 hours twice a month. And I'm gonna move on with that. Our next one is 10E.
I have 3 questions.
Okay, I'm sorry, Harley.
That's okay. So I guess this one, I was gonna ask Lee, but I guess you and him both serve on that work, so you have to punch him for making you answer all the questions about the Development Foundation.
I'll try, okay.
All right, so the letter of support that was on the agenda for the last meeting, what was that for, or was it for the, was it something like another grant that you guys were applying for, like the Red Cross grant? Do you know? Alan?
Sandy, I wrote the letter of support. Sandy, was using that. There's several grants out there, so I think she just uses that in the grant application. It was a generic letter. And I'm not quite sure which one she had targeted with that one back in the day, but I think I wrote that letter about 2 months ago when I got it on the consent agenda.
I know there was Stephanie had talked about the Red Cross grant, but I
Yeah.
was thinking, I don't remember if it was Lee or Sandy or somebody had said something about the Red Cross grant, but then that ties into my next question, what or who, if that grant is received, is that just for storefront businesses like the other 2 were, or do you know, Jeff?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll make notes and send
Because
you
I'm
an
not so
email.
sure that the Red Cross was applied for, but I'll have to check.
Okay. For some reason, that was the one that was sticking out in my brain.
I know long-term resiliency applied for that one.
And then, Jeff, has Oliver Anthony's people touched base with you on how much money was generated from the concert?
I can give you some brief numbers, Harley. I don't have the total count right now. Their costs, their indirect costs for the production was $78,000 and some change. Our direct cost was right at $18,000 for what we did. So with ticket sales and donations that came in, between our cost and their cost, there's about a $36,000 range there. Now, there is a significant donation that has been made by an individual with possibly a couple more to come. It's not a simple process that they write the check and send it in. It's got to go through the trust, attorneys, and the whole ball of wax. Hopefully by next meeting, I can give you a definite number. In relating to that, followed up with them, it was a success. I may have mentioned this at the last meeting, they would like to come back, make a commitment to come back to this community for the next 5 years to do this same thing, and would like to do a 2-day event. You know, since you've already got your street shut down, you've got the stage that's already set up, and this was probably, stage they used folks was probably a $200,000 stage with the sound, the lighting, and everything that went with it. So, you know, we have an opportunity to possibly for this to happen again. if that's what the community wants. And, the positive thing that I saw out of it, there were several positive things. The people that came were from everywhere. California, Texas, Florida, Canada. And they loved this place. They loved the friendliness of the people and the hospitality that they received. And numerous ones that I talked to said, we're gonna come back for a family vacation. So, and then the second thing is, the videos production team that, was here from that Oliver Anthony crew. Our message will not only reach the United States, but our message will reach the world where he tours in, okay? So everybody all across the United States and parts of the world will see Mitchell County's story, the damage it went through, and what we're still doing. So our message will get out there. So hopefully, there's a lot more donations that will come in, and I don't want people to think, well, we're here for Mitchell County. We're not begging. We're asking for a hand up. We're going eight months on this. If it was your home, if it was your business, whatever it was, you were affected. You were affected physically or mentally. You've lost personal stuff. And at the end of the day, unless you wanted to borrow money, there was no help to come in and help rebuild, repair, redo. In most situations, if it involved water, you were sort of left out. So I've talked long enough. I went all the way around
No, you're
the
good.
circle.
So, Steve, I did have, two questions, and you made me think of, well, when we're talking about board appointments. Do we have any Mainland Community College board appointments coming up, or when legislation changed back in like December of last year? Is that now on the responsibility of the state, or do you know?
I have no idea.
Cause I know a couple months ago, there was some discussion about how the counties weren't even as far as the board appointments. Have they talked about that anymore?
Yeah, they're not, nobody's talked about it,
Okay.
that I know of. But yes, you're correct, Yancey has got more than. I think Yancey has now got 6.
I got 2.
Yeah, they've got, and
It's not even.
yeah, it's not even, so. Not necessarily the greatest. So,
And then my last question was, so I know currently the president of the college is the CEO for the Enterprise Corporation, for like the hotel and that kind of stuff. Will he still be the CEO for that, or will that be passed off as another duty for the new president of the college?
that, I think the plan is that they would assume that role, as they mature into it, so to speak, so they're not gonna, Dr. Boyd, I believe, is on board with doing some, consulting type work. Cause you don't really gonna have whoever the new president is, just having to come in and then having to deal with, the old president, so, but there's so much going on out there, it would be about impossible to put somebody in that role to be successful without his help, because they need to understand all the different, budgets and everything that feeds into that. So, I could see Dr. Boyd staying on to help them get accustomed to that, is the way I understand it. To eventually assume it.
Anybody else before we move on? Okay, we'll go to 10E, discussion of opioid funds. And this is an annual meeting with the town regarding the opioid settlement. This meeting is required to be held to offer each town an opportunity to provide feedback and progress and settlement efforts. So first up, representing the town of Bakersfield, Dr. Charlie Nash. Come on up, Doc. Put you on the spot.
Is this for me?
So the town doesn't really receive a whole bunch from the settlement. I mean, most of it's gone to that recovery system and anything else is going to county law enforcement, but we have some firemen that have some Narcan. I like to see every fireman get some Narcan, carry around. Other than that, I think the rest of the money is spent in better places. We don't have a large problem in rampant opioid problems in town. Now let me get away from the good news is that, from a medical point of view, they just came out on the market with a brand new family of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and pain relief medicines that are completely non-addictive and more effective than the hydrocodone branch of the evil family pharmacy. You'll see with more prescriptions being written for this instead of the narcotic prescriptions, a whole lot less abuse. I'll give you an example. About 8 years ago, every licensed dentist in the state had to start taking an hour to 2 hour course every year to maintain his license. And that's when we found out that 66% of hydrocodone addiction started in a dental office.
Really?
And since we found that out, because, and I'll just say in 1985, which is the only time I ever had a pharmaceutical rep come to my office and gave me a completely fictitious report of how the new family of hydrocodones and are completely non-addictive and have the research to back it up. And as we know, that's where this settlement came out of, was that fabrication. Since Dennis found out that we were responsible, I personally have not written a controlled substance. I have got better ways to do it. I haven't written for a controlled substance prescription in 5 years. A statewide dental prescriptions for opioids has gone down about 32%. So light at the end of the tunnel. Anyway, more narcotic, thanks. Your turn, Philip.
These are kind of, I'm not very familiar with this program, and it's kind of something new to me. I've been going over your literature and this stuff, but, how does the, fire departments or the EMS personnel obtain the Narcan?
We've been getting some from Via's been good to give us some, and then some of our local folks, MCHP's got some resources to get it to us. If you need Narcan, I've got Summit Communication. I gave the sheriff a little bit now. I don't know if he's deployed a lot of it. I can try to start asking for more too.
Well, I
Got
don't know,
some stores.
I just didn't know how you obtained it, how it was put in the hands of fire department members, if they'd be able to administer it, that you will have it.
So a lot of our first responders are equipped with it. And I know our law enforcement folks usually have one or two in their car and have been trained on it. I can, if I know there's, if I get some numbers on how many fire folks need it, I can probably run that down and probably get you some.
Would some of this funding go for that?
I don't think
Use
we,
it for that?
is to look at it, we got a Schedule A and a Schedule B. We use Schedule A, and I don't know if we got some Narcan in that, I thought, but I'll have to look at the schedule. See if it's one of them, like number 9 or something in there. There's like a bunch of numbers in there. It's like, you got about 6 or 7 options or 8 or 9 options, so it could be in there. I'll look into that to find out. But I've been usually getting the Narcan free from some of these medical groups that are like health groups that come in.
We're always able to get some. If somebody needs some, we can get some to somebody, because you got that shelf life and you don't want it to go dead.
Yeah. Like I'm saying, I'm not really familiar enough with this program to give you much information on how I think it ought to be. I mean, the town, what type of funding would the town get from?
Right now, it's going to the county, but we're kind of seeing how it impacts your town, what your concerns might be in this meeting to kind of help us focus it, because it was, and the county attorney can jump in and talk about the legal aspect, but it was a legal settlement. And the counties opted in, all the counties did. And then we started getting a percentage of it, but they gave us such rigid, requirements on how we had to spend it. Originally, we thought it would just go to reimburse what Narcan did to the local government infrastructure, for example, more law enforcement. But then when it finally started going through, they started saying, well, you have a schedule of uses that you've got to use. And I will email you Schedule A's uses, that way y'all can see if y'all want to chime in from your town side on some.
I'd like to look at it, I haven't seen that. Honestly, I'm just not prepared to tell you.
It's roughly what, Alan, each, for the next 18 years, the county's gonna get roughly a little less than 200 grand or something, it's like 180.
What I remember,
What is the 3,700,000, the total long-term?
Correct, over 18 years,
Over 18 years.
85,000 a year, so, I mean, it's a. And it's very structured on how you spend it, I mean, it has to be to go in support of, you know, recovering addicts, law enforcement, health, you know, or is that, I said that's not right, there's a longer list, let Alan read, send that to you.
Yeah,
You can- you can
Send
go
that
through
to
it.
me.
I'll
So,
send
and
you,
Christie could probably answer a lot of your questions.
she was our expert.
She is
back
Johnny
in
on
the
the
day.
spot with this, so. you-
I'll ask Christian about that.
Yeah, you've got an ace in the hole there. Yeah.
Good.
Linda, would you like to, you've been involved with this from day one, would you like to,
As far as what, providing more information that's not already.
well, you know, follow the guidelines process for following after, you know, we chose which option we wanted to go, and then the standards after you pick one of the, let's say, pick one out of A or B, then you have to submit a plan to the state. The state has to approve that plan.
We have to report on it on a regular basis type of thing, and that's gonna be managed by the finance department. So yes, we've got a schedule to follow, it has to be dispersed according to the option A, the amendment from the state. And the funds come over, as you already stated, 18 years. So, it's not just one pot of money that we can disperse. So the process will be that organizations that are interested in potentially receiving some of the funds, there will be an RFP. They have to submit that information and present of how it's gonna be utilized, they'll be held accountable. And then they'll report back if indeed the county decides to do it every year. They will report back, you know, every year before additional funds are submitted back to them and so forth, so. There's a lot of different steps in the process.
Thank you. Any more conversation on that, guys? Okay, we'll move in for items for discussion. 11A, Mitchell County Long-Term Resiliency Group Resolution of Support. If that is in your packet, I think that we got a great report from Stephanie and her folks that was with her. So if nobody has any questions or wants to discuss this, I'm gonna, ask for a motion for this.
I'll make a motion that we, draft a resolution of support for the Mitchell County Long-Term Resiliency Group.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? All, any opposed? It passes. 11B, Mitchell County, Toe River Regional Library Operation Agreement. I think this is also in your packet. I hope you've had a chance to read that. what that consists of. I would say if any of you have any questions, Mr. Eggers or Alan.
I don't have a question, but, just a notation that, just a slight revision needs to be made in the second whereas in the first sentence. The new entity will be known as the Mountaineer Regional Library, and that needs to reflect saying, the Treasure River Valley Regional Library.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
But just that small revision is the only thing I've seen in that needs to be updated.
And that is correct. That was a working name from a very early draft that, apparently I was supposed to have been edited out, but was not.
I like Two River Valley better, I think so.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept this agreement?
Move to accept.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? None opposed, it passes. Item C, inspection fees, storm waivers, county manager.
Yes, sir. So at the last meeting, the board voted to continue on with the disaster waiver for inspections under a set amount. I believe that was like 250,000 thereabout. It was a project under that, and it was related to the disaster. There was a waiver. And so we went ahead and kept that waiver in place and refunded those that were in the week or so that it expired, which we expired at that 6-month period. We refunded them if they were disaster related. But follow up, you wanted to know how many and how much money had that impacted to the county on those projects. And so in inspections office, I have a great board clerk that is cross-trained in all kinds of stuff. And she was so nice to run a Excel sheet, kind of running down all our numbers on that. So, and while I say a great board clerk, she can jump in there if I'm butchering these numbers and tell me, but we had approximately 250 folks that had permit waivers due to the disaster. That amount of money due on that was about approximately $32,164 that was waived. Like I said, some of these bigger projects, we didn't waive them, we want to impact the small single residents, the middle class homes that had gotten hammered down and impacted. And it's not saying that the other ones were any, during that, a lot of the things that we're waiting on these projects are components of a project. For example, a electrical service is out, or we have a new meter base, a heat pump change out, pole barn replacement due to the storm. So most of this stuff has fallen under 250,000. Someone might have $1 million home, but needed the HVAC repair. So that was waived because it was under $250,000. Now, if you're going in and you got a new construction of a $2 million home after the storm, currently, even with the wording, that one has full fees because that wasn't storm impacted. The question the board may have today would be, do we want to continue that out, say, to the year point of the storm due to the fact that we have a long lead time to get contractors in such a rural county? Do you want to tweak it around, move it into some different parameters? If we kept it the way it is, I think that's going to catch most of the small projects, and it will provide some wavering for some of the bigger projects. So that's my opinion. My opinion on it is that if you wanted to keep it in place for a year, and then after a year, step back and say, okay, we're back to normal, that will give you enough time for the lead time for contractors. But this is open to the will of the board because they were the elected folks, and that's just my opinion.
So what documentation is having to be provided to show that it was storm damage? And you guys may have talked about that at the last meeting, I don't know.
So I think when Misty gets a permit. We've been kind of talking a little bit, but early on, she'd just take their word because everybody was impacted by the storm. I think there's some discussion on if you have a FEMA claim, an insurance claim to prove it. You can use some proof, or I'm not so sure of the signed affidavit just saying it's my word that occurred. So it being that we kind of put that limit on it, that $250,000 limit or thereabouts. That kind of says, okay, if you're gonna go out here and you're gonna tell me that it was sincerely a storm, and I guess when they look at the inspections, they're gonna see that it had some damage when they inspect it, so they can call bluff when we get our inspector's eyes on the project. It looks like it did not have any kind of storm damage, but right now, I thought what I understood was a lot of them, especially early on, were just, we'll take your word for it because we got hit by a storm. Tree fall on your HVAC. Your roof got split by a tree, you had some flooding in your basement, need a new service. It was basically done that way, but we do have the ability, that might be something y'all might wanna require a set item of proof. That could be a good tweak, so that's a good parameter, maybe to lay on
Discussion, close.
I think we should follow the advice that Alan has put out about, you know, if these folks are still in storm damage, we need to keep that waiver. But I'm all in favor of making sure we have some kind of proof right now. I mean, it's like you said before, everybody was in turmoil, but now, you know, it's like you say, if somebody starts building a new house now, then, you know, that doesn't have anything to do with the past. So I think we need to have some type of documentation to show that it was when it happened and how it happened. And because if not, people will, you know, we want to make sure we're spending this money carefully.
it. And that documentation, that's a good way to phrase it, if you put it in motion, say with proper documentation, and we'll vet out what proper looks like. On there, so that could be a good way to phrase that.
Do you know
Yes,
what,
sir, you can do it that way if you'd like.
do you know,
Okay.
I was gonna say Stephanie is here, she's still in the hall, she wait, Stephanie. What does their workload look like with, people that they're dispersing out to the,
So,
long-term resiliency?
so there's a long-term resiliency group.
Yeah, is there like still a long running thing?
They pretty much have some, they've got a pretty hard list of certain types of jobs. They're backed up on road and driveway related where it requires heavy equipment. Some rebuilds are kind of in limbo because of volunteer groups. So some of the specialized stuff, they're having a little bit more of a backlog. They are completing tickets, and when we say a ticket, that could be re-damage on a roof that needs a new shingling, and you know, they're on the menu, but they're a month out when the volunteer group comes in for summer vacation. So, you know, they told me that they do have some tickets and they got some outstanding stuff. So they are still needing to get some more work done out through the volunteer resiliency group.
And I think that's how this conversation started. You know, to get this drafted, you know, that, I think it was back on a mission, was working on a project. And the individual, did not have funds to hold a permit that had been damaged. Their house and property pretty severely by the storm. So I think that's how the initial conversation came up, Harley, and then we came to extend this because, you know, we're going on 8 months, but and all the damage that was done, you only have so many contractors that have qualified so many hours in the day to get this work done. So we didn't want to charge somebody that had taken a major hit with front calls from the storm. But we, you know, we were also concerned, okay, let's say you're moving in and you're gonna build a new house, or you're something of that nature, or you're remodeling your house that was not damaged, then there will be a fee coming out.
Statement fees apply.
Yeah, so I think that's how the initial conversation.
Yeah.
The best I remember came about. Any more questions?
Steve, how you provide?
I just know what we're facing, with this budget, and I know it's a hard time for a lot of people, but I don't know how long we can. Extend this out, I don't know if we've got, did we say how long we plan? I agree with the documentation, how long are you thinking that would be?
For the physical year or the actual year?
Right,
Yeah, 1 year of Hurricane Helene is what I was thinking, but that's fiscal year could be a good drop point for the new budgets coming in, so.
And I think however we do set it, whether it's a year from the storm or the fiscal year, when that time frame comes up, then we need to revisit this, because we certainly, just my opinion,
I agree with
I
that.
don't want somebody trying to, they're worrying how they're gonna pay for an inspection fee when everything they got was destroyed, or most of it was destroyed. That's my concern. And, you know, I know it's gonna be a tough budget year, and I'm sure that there's gonna be somebody out there that's gonna abuse the system. Like always, but think of how many people we're helping versus the one that's abusing it. And I think when the inspector goes out, because there will be an inspection part of this element, when that inspector goes out, they're gonna be able to determine if it was storm related or not. Would that be a correct statement?
That is a correct statement, because when they get eyes on that, they're gonna. Okay, for example, you're inspecting a bridge that was out, you know, you're gonna see there's an absence of a bridge, that's a no-brainer. Tree on electrical service. They're gonna see some tree cut down, some impact damage, and they're gonna see trees in the yard. Some of the ones that are a little harder to get is, you know, some interior stuff where maybe interior flooding occurred, and then they've got a delay, and they've got one part of it all finished, but then the lacking, waiting for an HVAC or some internal repair with everything done, then it's gonna be a little harder to determine that, and that's where we need that documentation of insurance settlement, if the insurance doing it, or a FEMA claim. So we would need some hard data on that.
It'd be my recommendation to the board that we extend it to the end of the fiscal year with an opportunity to revisit after the fiscal year. That would be my recommendation to this board.
We talk about the end of this year.
Yeah. June 30th.
End of June,
And we revisit it July 1.
That's
fair.
and then documentation between that.
And documentation,
Between the 2 months between,
yes,
I'm good with that.
Harvey.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was trying to summarize what you said in the form of a motion, and I don't think I can recap. So,
Motion to extend the benefit of waiver of fees through the end of fiscal year 24-25. Is that right? With documentation provided.
I think you covered it.
I'll make that as a formal motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Thank you, guys. Ms. Mavis, you're up. Budget amendment number 4. You got a lot of numbers in there.
Well, I'm getting a head start on the end of the year, and things change daily around here right now, so. One of the biggest ones, I'll just, this is number 4 for this budget year, and it totals $986,792, which brings our total budget for the year of $38,576,633. Again, it's a lot of change. And you'll see most of this in here is FEMA money, 780,000 of it. Also, you're seeing some things come out of this budget. It's not just things coming in, but for example, one of the big ones is transportation. Vehicle replacements that were slated for this year are not gonna happen. The vehicles are not getting here in this budget year, so those are gonna roll over. And you'll see those in next year's budget. The state's just rolling those over till next year because they were not able to get those vehicles built. The specialty vehicles are difficult as it is. You'll see some changes in, some salaries that some people had more staff during the storm and then some people had less. So you're gonna see some departments are giving up some salaries that they didn't use, like transportation didn't use all their drivers during the storm. And then other departments used more salary. You'll also see a lot of moving around in DSS. They got emergency funds. They got more state money than they projected and less federal money. So a lot of that is just a matter of the beast of this year and it being the storm and a lot of moving around. We will have one more, but hopefully I have gotten about 90% of it already taken care of. I don't know, like I said, I do expect some more FEMA money between now and the end of this fiscal year. I hope it gets here. They did tell us that some of that money's slowing down a little bit just because it is the end of the budget year for the state and so some of that money may get tied up. We may not see it till July, but it'll still be money for this fiscal year, so we'll do a budget amendment in June to clear that up. That's all I have on the budget amendment, unless somebody has any questions. I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Ms. Mavis? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept budget amendment number 4. You'll have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dale. All in favor? Okay, 11E, North Carolina cash flow loan ordinance for Mitchell County.
Okay, last month, I think it was, you signed the paperwork to get the loans. And I failed to think the next step, which is, once I got the guidance from the Treasury Department, it does specify in there that those funds have to be set aside in a special revenue fund, which means it can't be in our general fund. So when the money did come in, I have set up a new special revenue fund for that, which means for the budget and for audit purposes, we have to have a separate ordinance. So this ordinance is spelling out the special revenue fund for the cash flow loan that we signed the paperwork on last month. So it's just putting it into our budget. And when we do the new budget for 25-26, you'll see that as part of your budget ordinance. We'll have a new fund. It's gonna be fund number 18. And that's all it's doing. It's putting that money in its own fund. And we'll keep it segregated and separate from general fund monies. That makes sense? All right, I need a motion and a second to approve that.
Do I have a motion? So moved. Second. Second by Dale, all in favor? Thank you, Mavis.
Thank you, and I'm sorry for all the paperwork, but we'll get through it.
Thank you for what you're doing right now.
Thanks, you're welcome.
11F, private property debris removal. Gotta go, Mr. County.
Sir, so, we're seeing signs all through the community. We got some signboards up for you. If you have any private property debris removed, it's got an 800 number, so I encourage you to sign up. So this is related to that. Private property debris removal is a program where in the improved area around your house, if you have debris and it's piled up, we can bring a truck in to pick that debris up and haul it off for you. So we also, with that same program, can chop down leaners that are threatening your critical infrastructure, that be in your house, your garage, your outbuildings. So if you have a tree leaning over them, that's part of the private property debris removal, is they'll remove that. So the current way a lot of folks are doing that is you can run it through these pre-approved state contract, but being that the state contract can sometimes have rate changes. It was back in 2020 when that was first approved, and there's been a lot of inflation since then. We wanted full control over that contract. And so, we went ahead and put an RFQ out for that. And we got 2 bids. So we had to re-put it out since we didn't get the minimum of 3. So we reposted it again and didn't get additional ones, but that did allow us to open the 2 bids. Upon doing the points score system and knowing the past performance of Crowder Gulf, who's been doing your road right-of-way debris removal, they've been doing a great job. You see these roads are starting where they're getting the big green machine with the grabber called the Cinnabog in. They're doing the job and they're bulking the equipment up and getting it done. We're feeling pretty good about how they're running the right of ways. So we want to approve them for the private property debris removal, but I want to, first off, get any questions or concerns, but then if we do a motion to approve them, I need that upon legal review, and we're doing some final negotiation of a few rates that they have, so I want the ability to negotiate a few rates too, if we do that.
What is their timeline looking like for private property?
So, if we got 400 private property, work orders ready to go right now. So if this board approves them, we're gonna have to, we're gonna get a little pre-approval from FEMA, at least a certain percent of those. We're gonna let them take a look to make sure we're doing them right. But we'd like to be pulling them out in the next week to 2 weeks, and start getting work orders done. So our hope on private property debris removal is if we get this contract approved, that we can start moving them out within the next 2 weeks. Like I said, we're doing some FEMA check boxes on that because we want to make sure the county's reimbursed on it.
And Mr. Chairman, that does hit the point I'd like to make is that this should be FEMA and state reimbursable. So there'd be no cost to the individual property owners. And if FEMA signs off on it, no cost to us as the county as well.
Yes, and there will be debris monitors coming alongside of the private property debris removal folks. That monitors to make sure that debris is qualifying. So the debris tech company and the Crowder Gulf are coming onto your property if you got you a big pile of trees that you need moved. And that debris monitor is saying, yes, that's FEMA eligible, but no, you're outside the improved area over there. We can't get that one. So they'll tell the debris removal contractors, if one of them looks iffy, they're gonna go make the judgment call. So that's kind of keeping the county covered as well as having that debris monitor going out on every site.
And this is also a voluntary process, so property owners would need to sign an encroachment agreement to allow the Crowder Gulf onto the property. If they do, then they can go enter onto the property, and it would be a hold harmless agreement so that neither we nor Crowder Gulf would be responsible for the tire tracks that tear up the grass or things like that. If folks want to not engage in this service, they're certainly free to, and they can hang on to their down trees and their down branches as long as they like, or they can do it themselves. That's certainly within their prerogative to do so.
Is a root model a qualifying debris?
Yes, yes, it is. If it's in your mowed area, gotta be in your mowed area, in your improved area around your house. So the area that you kind of mow is kind of seen as the improved area. Now, there could be some extenuating circumstances if you're mowing 5 acres around your house and so but we're talking about the 100 to 200 feet around your house typically is what the area along your driveway.
So if people are cleaning up the debris around their house and they're getting it piled farther away, does it need, how specific is the 200 to 300 foot?
So if you're mowing your grass up to the debris point and it's like 200 feet, go ahead and get the riding mower and mow right around the edge of that thing, and you should be good. And I think my debris folks would agree with that. So, but now if it's back in the woods and you pushed it back in the woods and it looks like a little logging road to get to it, then you're not gonna get it. So, yeah, I'll say this, if you got you got the mindset right now, and you got some that's out there a little bit, try to pile it near the edge of your property border, right there where it's near your mow zone, and you should be good. And, you know, you can also, when you do the debris sign up, you can let them know your time frame. A lot of people said, well, I don't wanna sign up because I still got a lot of work to do. So when you can sign up and say, don't come, you know, my way till 2 months out. So that way you'll have enough time to pile your debris up, because a lot of us need our Saturdays and our days off to do those chores like piling up debris. So, that is another thing. So don't let that stop you from signing up if you're signing up for debris.
That
How
was my
long
next
is the,
question.
how long is the sign up? I'm sorry.
No, that,
This-
How long is the sign up? How long do people have to sign up?
I'm gonna guess that we're gonna probably try to sign them up to mid-July. That's gonna be my guess, because we're just approving it today. You know, and we wanna give them enough time, and the kind of the grand scheme on that, unless there's some lengthening by the state, is within the first year, basically, of this disaster, it's a 90-10 split with FEMA and the state. So mid-September is gonna be that cutoff date for about every debris program we got, because it's no longer reimbursed. So it could be cut off sooner if the state, or the FEMA folks look at it and they say, well, you've given them ample opportunity. But by mid-September at the latest, our reimbursement goes, so you need to realize that that project needs to be done in the next 2 months. Get it done early in case it goes late.
just gauging on how much my husband needs to get done.
I see the wheels turning.
Mr. Chairman, one other item, you will later have a budget, consideration that will be another not to exceed price, similar to the debris removal and monitoring that you've done for the public roads and for county owned property. So there will be a budgetary constraint associated with this as well.
And what I'm gonna need from the board is a motion to approve selection of Crowder Gulf upon legal review and final negotiation of rates as the PVDR contractor, or well, let's say as our debris contractor, because this contract we're doing allows me to use them 2 and 3 years out. It's a long-term selection contract, so we don't have to jump through the state. We've got them pre-approved. The last time they were only for a certain region, and to get these in, I had to get a region, the state to move them to our region. So this will let me get them, if we have, heaven forbid, anything else in the next 2 or 3 years, we can use them. And so the motion is to approve the selection of Crowder Gulf upon legal review and final negotiation of rates as the debris contractor for Mitchell County.
I have a motion.
I'll put all of that in the form of a motion.
I'll say it.
All in favor? Okay. 11G, French Broad Lease Agreement. Who would like to?
I'll start it, and the county attorney can jump in there hard and heavy. So for those that are in this meeting and on live stream, the county has been in discussion with French Broad Electric as a potential occupant of one of the buildings at Bowman, actually half of one of the buildings at Bowman. They are in a predicament in that they do not have enough room in their current facility, and they're looking for options in Bakersfield, and they cannot find any. And so it's basically, you know, if they can't find anything in Bakersfield, they're gonna move operations and consolidate them in Yancey County and Burnsville. So they approached us and they were interested in the occupational skills building at Bowman. That is the one with the little playground behind it. That's right down near the road, and they wanted half of that building. And so in, a few discussions we've had with them, they were very interested. They felt like it met their needs. And now, they're looking to do a build out. So we have a lease at play, and it has some features that causes us to get a lease payment as the county, which will be generating some revenue. And it requires them to renovate that half of that building. So this French Broad lease agreement is something that's kind of benefiting our folks because, during this storm, French Broad basically was needing operations in our county. And they had a lot of poles down. They needed, this building will give some barracks to keep a crew in Mitchell County on the ground, ready to move quicker when your power goes out. So there's, also, it's gonna allow a place for you to pay your bill if you wanna go in person and not do online. Or if you have a internet or an HVAC, mini split. There's several things that French Broad does that, you'll have a Mitchell County point of contact in, and we did not wanna lose that. So, the discussion for the board is number one, a vote to say is, French Broad, would you all authorize them to come and work out of the Bowman building, half of that? Number two, would you accept a lease agreement that we have, been kind of working around in the lease agreement area and any other details that the county attorney wants to jump in on? I would, pitch that to him, or you all, if you have questions, we'll be here to answer.
Mr. Chairman, to add to that, the lease agreement is, as Mr. Cook said, for half of that building. It does include an area that's a service area where folks can go and apply for new service, pay bills, whatever they would need to do. It would reserve for French Broad, 3 spaces in front of that area of the building with a shared space of the other areas with the county. There is also a small storage yard. There's an area that's gated behind that building that folks have been over to Bowman. And roughly the area behind the building and to the side of it would be a gated storage yard where they can park vehicles and stage equipment that they might need for this building. It would be a build out for the building that would be solely at French Broad's expense. They would also agree to pay rent to the county for a 5-year period. And it has 3 additional renewal terms for 5 years apiece at French Broad's option. That rental period does have a consumer price index increase associated with it, which says that the rent will go up according to what inflation in the area would go up. And we've been able to come to terms for all of the other items related to heating, cooling, and electricity. For their side would be French Broad's responsibility, and the parties would share water and sewer expenses related to this property. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board?
So if we pass this tonight, then then it has to go to the French Broad Board, is that correct? For them to approve, and then
I happen to know
What's the
that,
date?
Jeff, we've had this done like mid last week, this lease, and his board meeting, I think, was over the weekend or something, and I think it's already passed his board meeting pending our approval.
I do know French Broad is eager to get started with their renovations so that they could, we do have certain time deadlines in this agreement, and they're eager to start their renovations so they can be open for business before rent starts, because rent starts whether they're finished with renovations or not.
does that affect the school's insurance at all?
No, and French Broad's required to carry its own insurance on the property.
I just wanted to make sure.
Any more questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion for the French Broad lease agreement.
I'll make a motion, we sign the agreement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Okay, thank you, guys. Last one on 11G, resolution of the Mitchell County Board of Education and the Mitchell County Board of Commissioners regarding the Bowman facility and transfer of FEMA public assistant grant responsibilities.
I will jump onto that one. This one was kind of a last minute entry into the agenda. I was working Friday with our disaster management team, and what HGA, which is our disaster management team, has at their disposal is they have scoping groups that are outside of the area that they can rely on to come in and scope something out and get us the maximum amount of money whether it be an engineering team, and put the proper data down on a project. Now, I'm not saying the school won't, but we feel like if we can get Bowman's project worksheet into the county, since the county is eventually taking over on Bowman, and that was slated to have happened back in mid-October. For the storm, there was an agreement in place. So we feel like this agenda will allow, or this, resolution and memorandum of understanding, if signed by the commission board and the school board, will help us, get that project worksheet moved over to the county to where we can, there's several other things that I'm seeing on Bowman that we need to get on the FEMA worksheet. I noticed that our electrical in our boiler room was submerged. And today I found out that wasn't part of their project worksheet. And so I want that electrical added. So things such as that, I want to maximize that amount. I feel like there's about $1 million that's going to be required to fix this storm damage at Bowman. And we got that, ability to maybe leverage that. Of course, this has to be, approved by FEMA. We feel like we got decent odds. We're gonna take it a hard run. So you signing it and the school signing it is my first step. If FEMA says, yes, we can take the project worksheet and move it to Mitchell County, then we'll also not far after that be able to maybe transfer that deed over to Mitchell County for Bowman and get this project and this school moved over. Because I think the school wants it off their books. We need it for building out our grants, because in order to get it, the lease works, but it's better to have it to where we are saying we're the owner when we do these mitigation grants for generators and things like that to get it built out. And I have extensions trying to move over there and do some things. So this is a good thing. It's a good process. And if we lose out on it, really ain't got nothing lost, because we don't plan to transfer the deed. If FEMA says no, then the deed stays with them and we run the FEMA process out and get what we can, so.
And Mr. Chairman, by way of background on this, as you know, the arrangement for the new middle school with, the school board was that Bowman is, within our, possession and use as soon as they move out, and that we would then transfer the deed, at a later date. The storm hit, and out of an abundance of caution, we hit pause on transferring the deed. So we have the equitable ownership of the property. We have a right to obtain and report a deed from the school board at any time we choose to do so. But because FEMA specializes in round pegs going in round holes, we decided to leave everything with the school system so they could repair it as their property with their asset without confusing the folks who run FEMA as to whether this is appropriate or not appropriate. That will be our plan, to essentially run the FEMA reimbursement through the school board if FEMA doesn't realize that school board is a governmental entity and commissioners are a governmental entity. I know that might take a jump of logic to put that together, but that is the hope of this resolution, is to present it to FEMA to say, we're both governmental entities, we're both eligible for FEMA reimbursement. It makes more sense for us as the end user of the building to continue with what we were doing and get reimbursed. And if FEMA says, yes, this will streamline our process and make it easier for HGA to help us with this process. Otherwise, we're gonna have the added step to run things through the school system for them to make the FEMA reimbursement applications and get those restored. And then we'll move to deed. But for all practical purposes, Bowman is the county's, but we don't have the deed in hand because we're waiting to make sure we don't offend the higher ups at FEMA by doing so. Not to disparage our friends at FEMA, who I'm sure will be very cooperative with us.
Okay, guys, you've heard all the information. Any more questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to support this resolution for the Mitchell County Board of Education and the Mitchell County Commissioners regarding the Bowman facility and transfer of FEMA public assistant grant responsibilities?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second? Farley second. All in favor? Okay, we'll move on to 12, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented? Do I have a second?
Second. Go ahead, Dale.
I'll second it. All in favor? Thank you. Ms. Mavis, you're up again, finance officer's report.
I don't have anything new, I'm good.
Nothing to report, county manager's report.
All right, I'm gonna pop you a few off right here and then we'll keep it moving. All right, so Thursday last week, we had a, emergency management training day at Spring Meeting. Actually, it was Wednesday. And so the state emergency management training to assist with rescues, to assist with disasters, occurred in right here in Mitchell County along the river where the flood was. And what they were doing is really neat. I got to do one of these. They had, when I pulled in that morning, there was like 6 helicopters landed in a row out there in the field. And basically what they did was, we would have someone rappel down under a rock. And then the helicopter would position in and put a line down to them with a rescue person, and they would hook them up and pull them up into the helicopter. And so, Brody Miller volunteered to do that. I was gonna volunteer, but my wife stopped me. I was ready to do it. She said, "No, sir, you're not." And that's my story, and I'm saying, the helicopter was a good 300-foot hovering up there, so about a football field's length up in the air.
Wow.
So, they were out there and really encouraging to watch them do the repetitions. And I did take a helicopter flight at the end of that and, took a look. And seeing that 50% tree down in our county, seeing it from the air, it's crazy how many trees we've got down. And it don't give it justice seeing it from, the roadside. Yeah, you can look across 2 ridges, but when you're in the air, you can see those trees just kind of laying flat down in areas that from the road don't look like there's very many trees down. We truly are at about 48% of our trees. And I thought, we flew around the area of Spruce Pine, about a 2-mile circle around Spring Meadow is where we were seeing these trees down. I was looking at that and that's a lot of trees down to not look like that from the road. So, that was interesting. And that was, very encouraging to see those folks out there doing that training. And, we had folks from all over the state, from Charlotte, from, State Highway Patrol, interagencies, doing exercises. So when a storm comes, they're getting those repetitions in. And, it's really neat to see that. I definitely, when they come up, they'll be back up in, August to do another training. They love to do the Springmate area. It's a little cooler, little place to get out of the heat, but also it has some good cliffs. It's got good areas where they can do, mock rescues. All right, so the EM training was my good news. My bad news is waterway debris removal is paused right now for vehicles in the water. I was telling Mayor Heiss over here that he's very happy that he got his town's waterway cleared out, because had that been going on starting Friday, they would have pulled every one of those vehicles out of the river and said you were only to clean up stuff off the bank. And if you have a barge, you can go in the river. So we're waiting on this pause. I'm not going into calling and making a stink on it quite yet, because I heard that it was a pause and they're gonna revisit it this week. If they revisit this and it ends up that we're gonna not be able to run our equipment in the rivers and in the creeks to remove our debris, and it was due to environmental reasons. We had, it was, from what I understand, and I may be wrong, but my understanding is that the state, due to environmental reasons, put a pause on our waterway debris removal. And I'm very aware of the environment, but we just had a flood scour our creeks out. So what wasn't scoured was silted with 4 to 5 foot of silt like what is behind us right here. So any of them endangered species, they're either fossilized under the silt or they're scoured down into Erwin, Tennessee right now. And we need in this window right now to get in our streams and clear this debris out so we won't flood again. And then we will stay out of the streams for 10, 20, 30 years until we have a major disaster that clogs them up with debris. So we will be asking our elected officials on the state and federal level to get our waterway debris removal going. We're probably for our rafting companies too. You know, we were just getting into the Nola Chucky down there and the Toad down up on the north end of the county, and they stopped our waterway debris removal. And so we're hoping we'll get that back. So I'm watching it. I'm not jumping out there right now and raising stirs and writing letters quite yet.
The
It
Corps
might
of
be done.
Engineers who told them to get out, right?
No, it was actually NC Fish and Wildlife. That's what I was thinking it was. That's what I was hearing, but this is all, right now, I've not got hard data yet on it, but I was hearing it was the elk toe mussels, which is not on the federal endangered species list, it's on the state list. So it's not, our FEMA folks said that that is not a concern to them. Our state folks have a concern for the elk toad. And so our folks were trying to say, we're open to, if you see a colony, we're not gonna wanna drive through them. We won't go and do that in that area, but you can't stop our operations. A pause of a month. That can be the spring rain that rains 4 inches in an hour and clogs up our creeks. We're fragile right now. So what you're hearing from me is what I'm gonna be telling our elected officials on up the ladder. Budget workshop coming up Thursday at 4. We are gonna be going over budgets. I know Mavis has been working very hard on that, and she's got a lot on her with her workload on the budgets. So we're trying to get that hedged in. She and I met this morning. She's over the weekend. She's put together some numbers on there that's we're kind of honing them in. As far as everything going with FEMA, one of the projects we were working on was our fields down here were destroyed. We think that FEMA is going to be able to give us $2 million and a little change to repair our fields from the storm. We are also looking at potential public assistance towards some select private bridges that are not IA eligible, and we are trying to weed through on what. Number one, it's limited to $40,000, so there's only gonna be a few qualifying, and it's gotta be a home that is a primary residence to qualify. So we're kind of watching that and trying to build something out with that a little bit on getting that. So I'm still watching how FEMA's doing that over with Yancey County to see. I'm gonna see what their template looks like. And then one of the things that I attended that's really important to me is that day of prayer on May 1st. And I know that was our national day of prayer, and always when we're going through things, when everything else don't work, sometimes it's good to just stop and pray, or maybe pray first before everything else don't work. But that was something last week that I attended, and it really felt good to be with that group.
I had a couple questions for you, if you're done with your
I'm
report.
ready, man.
And you guys might have talked about it at the last meeting, but I noticed that Shelley had given an update about the LPA. And their status. What is the status of their new office? Do they have a move-in date yet?
They're waiting for a few more, they got a few hanging projects. We got an email last week. And the CEOs, I'm guessing, depending on projects, I'm gonna guess, we're probably looking at a month. We were hoping to be in at May. We might be in around June's what I'm thinking. That's a guess. We're running IT and we're starting to get close, but you know, as you get to the end of a project, you got that punch list items, and that's what we're trying to run out. So some of the punch list. Cabinetry is still in the works. We still got, I think, a little bit of HVAC stuff and some final details on a few other odds and ends.
What is the status of our sheriff's office punch list?
We're getting close on that. I think, if Donald was here, I would see if the group, they might have a group coming today or tomorrow to move a door. I've got a door. Really, that's probably one of the final things on that punch list. Cause they've got a door from the bathroom that collides with the door going into the back of to take folks on into the sheriff's offices. So one of them was designed where the doors collide, and that is a liability issue for me. It might not have been a code issue. So it passed code, but when someone walks out of the bathroom and they get their head banged, the county's insurance is paying that. So I said, you know, you all had on your plan, this door was moved down, and I can say Mark was not yet over there. That door needed to be moved down about 3 foot, and I think we're holding payment till they do it, so we're holding the final payment. I hope to have you commissioners invited to an open house, and anybody in the community and some of these stakeholders to take a look at this project and do a formal ribbon cutting. I think that's about maybe 2 weeks out, maybe, hopefully, if they get this door moved and fixed. I think all the other on the punch list are starting to come together, but I do need to touch base with a few over there.
And just a brief question.
Oh, boy.
So, several individuals that live on Carter's Ridge Road would like to know when they're coming to get the debris on the road. Not private property.
It's roadside debris.
Huh?
We're doing it now.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, look at there. I'm glad he said that.
Oh, good.
So yeah, Jim Fry's my debris, guy that I talked to that's over some of the right of way operations. So my answer was about to be, I'll have to call Jim Fry and see, but
The
Dale's
big
got
green
some.
machine was,
The green machine.
was down past. Is midway in Carter's Ridge on it.
It's moving over this property now.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
That's good to hear.
Several people that have called us said, where are they going? And then now this might be a question for you or Alan. Remember the grant project that we had applying for the sidewalk for the school? Did they find extra funding?
They did, so it's a full match. The county will not have to match that sidewalk. That was I think $150,000 match. I know Steve was
They've already done all the surveys.
Oh, they have.
yeah.
Surveys all done and complete. They were doing that. What was it? Late March? Something like that.
Yeah, that's about the time I was getting that we were hearing that we were getting a full match. It was a 20% county match. I think with the storm and finding some other funds, they were able to cover that. But the price tag on that project went up a lot higher than what we thought it would be. That price tag, we were thinking, I think around the 300,000 mark. It was probably around closer to the $1 million mark.
It's
To
much
get that
needed.
sidewalk walk in. It will be, and it will be a really nice addition through that school road, along Ledger School Road.
That was all the questions.
More comments.
Mr. Davis.
Okay, I'll go back real quick, make a comment. I just want to make one comment about what Jeff had mentioned earlier, as we all gave our reports and we sit here and yes, we do get, oh, I gotta do this and this and get this ready for work and so forth and so on. But in the long run, once we go to our appointed other boards in the county, our other committee meetings in the county. It makes us, as a board, I feel like that as we go to all these meetings and things, that it helps us move forward in Mitchell County. This board works very hard, going to different we represent Mitchell County in these meetings, and I always tell my folks that in the ones I'm in, I said, I'm your advocate for Mitchell County. You know, I will pass stuff along to county manager, I'll inform the commissioners, whatever, but I'm very thankful that we are on these committees, because I think that we play a big part in moving forward with Mitchell County. So sometimes, yeah, we have to shuffle our work schedules, and that can be a little inconvenient sometimes, but in the long run, we're doing what is best for our county. And I just want to say to all of you, board members tonight, thank you for all the time you put in at these different places.
Will you support me if I get fired from my full time? Any vacation days? I've got a few, yeah, I've got a few, we're burning through.
You can have my job.
I'm sorry. Pulled up, that, I'll just say tonight, thank you to Alan, Deidre, for and Mavis, Linda, for keeping a lot of things going in this building. I mean, we got a lot of stuff moving, a lot of people having to touch it. A lot of inconvenience. I know what it's, you know, I feel for these folks down here on the end of the building. Hopefully, we're close to getting that put back together here before too long, so they can find themselves and back to normal. But it takes a lot of people to keep the county going, and I think we're very lucky with the people we got in here that's managing it. So thank you, and if you get tired of your legal career, I think you got a good spot in stand-up comedy. You got a very subtle way. You're a very funny guy. I said over here, I've never heard about somebody talk so bad about female in such a pleasant way. You've got a career if you want to hang up your law hat. But thank you guys. That's all I got. Harley. Okay.
Alan, I did forget to ask you one question. Is there an Eagles update? I know it's the $1 million question in Mitchell County right now, but I've been asked a ton of times, and I said I would ask.
I'll be honest, I don't have anything
Okay.
official from them. I've seen activity over there, so that means there's still hope, so I haven't heard anything official.
I did my job and asked you, so. I did want to recognize, Mr. Josh Nelson. And some point post here. So Josh was chosen for his dedication to the citizens and extras that he done during Helene. But he is the 2025 Emergency Communications Center Employee of the Year, and he was recognized by the North Carolina Public Safety Communications Conference by NCMENA. Congrats, Josh. That's all I got.
Already alluded to the finance meeting Thursday. I just got a packet for you. That's in the finance office. When you leave tonight, we're gonna get your packet, 4 o'clock, law enforcement center Thursday. And we'll hammer this thing down and roll it. That's it. I'll need a motion. Go into closed session with the statute 143-318-11A6, which is personnel. So I'll entertain a motion in one closed session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Okay, we're now going to closed session. Does any of the board need to take a short recess? Linda, Mavis.
I was gonna ask you.